Magic round, easily the best round of the NRL so far. Round 11, teams were playing for a bit more. There was a massive upset, another major injury to an Origin star, and for this video I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to probably combine my review of round 11 and my preview of round 12 with my predictions and tips for round 12 and run through teams after team list Tuesday. But let's preview round 11. It was another bloody good round, like I said. But first game up, Raiders versus Bulldogs. Raiders winning this one 24-20. I had the Bulldogs 1-12. The Bulldogs just couldn't get up, couldn't quite get there. Awesome game from the Raiders, just right where they left off 2 weeks ago. It's against the Seagulls, obviously coming off their bye. The only change for the Raiders since Teamless Tuesday was Umre Gula starting and Big Josh Papali'i going back to the bench. And also Jordan Rapana was back at fullback, and he made a bit of a difference, although getting sin-binned in as well. Anyway, Bulldogs moved Josh Curran into the starting side on the edge, and Jacob Preston came off the bench. There was a change just before kickoff, and then the first two tries, they were scored by the Raiders off mistakes from the Bulldogs. Two sort of intercepts or easy tries, really. Just gifts that the Bulldogs gave. It just gave the Raiders a bit of a leg up, and they led by 12-0 after 21 minutes, so that was no good. And then the Bulldogs managed to sort of get back into the contest. They scored 3 tries in the last 8 minutes of the first half, so that was a bloody good effort too, helped by Jordan Rapana, of course, Josh Papali'i also going to the bin. So it's like different occasions, different times, but they were playing with 11 men, the Raiders, at one point, and that included the first 7 minutes of the second half. The Bulldogs scored the first second half try, of course. The score was now 20-12 to the Dogs, scoring 3 tries just before half-time and then another try after half-time. The Raiders weren't done. They scored 2 more tries to take the lead, 24-20. But there was still 17 or 18 minutes to go, so pretty hectic finish to the game. Bulldogs didn't take their opportunities, and they were pretty rusty when it mattered, actually. Really thought that, they would sort of take that on. Certainly Matt Burden would sort of switch on there. He's playing for a lot at the moment, playing for an Origin spot. But anyway, Raiders fought hard all the way and managed to hold on with another good effort. Jordan Rapana back was good for the Raiders, offering that experience. He just never gives up, that bloke. Reasonably inspirational, but he fights to the end. And young Raiders halves, they were excellent, of course. Solid in defence. Ethan Strange providing sort of 2 try assists to Hudson Young for Hudson Young's double. He scored a double, and that was really what turned the game at the end there. 4 tries each to each team, but Matt Burton missing 2 conversions being the difference in the end. Jordan Rapana kicking the Raiders goals, kicked quite well. I don't know, that's the best he's kicked probably. And of course the 2 sin binnings for the Raiders, they really did quite well considering all of that it was up against them. Second game on the Friday night, Seagulls versus Broncos. 12-13 to the Broncos, a lot closer than a lot would have predicted. I had the Broncos 13+ here. Both teams were without their first choice star fullbacks, with Reece Walsh pulling out during the week with a sore knee, and that meant Cobbo started at fullback. But I think Reece Walsh has been named for next week, so that's a good thing. Seagulls didn't change 1-17, but with Cooler at fullback, of course. I was looking ominous early for the Broncos. They scored 2 tries in the first 12 minutes, one coming after Taniela Paseka going to the bin after taking Stags out from an offside position. There was a couple of those this weekend. Isaiah Yeo. Halftime score 0-12 to the Broncos, and could have been worse. Cobbo running riot really, but probably trying to do too much. There was a couple of occasions he had made some good yards and just tried to do a bit too much. Probably could have just taken a moment to get a good pass away, but anyway, could have been worse. 12-0 at halftime. Just wanted to point out there that after Broncos scored 2 tries in the first 12 minutes, and that was all the tries they got. So they didn't score tries in about, what are we talking, almost almost 70 minutes of rugby league. The next score was a try to Sea Eagles. After halftime, Ruben Garrett cutting back on a great angle to finally get the Sea Eagles scoring going, and that was the first points in almost 40 minutes for them. Sea Eagles were the next to score after that as well, levelling the scores in the 70th minute when Garrett converted. Garrett converting from the sideline after Vega went over in the corner, which set the game up for a great finish. Broncos were the first to get into a position to kick a drop goal, and that was successful through Jock Madden. DCE had to go about 40 metres out, which was well short, and there was about 1.5 minutes to go. So in amongst all of that, Payne Haas went, but that was it. That was where the score finished. In amongst all of that hectic hustle at the end, Payne Haas went off with an injury. In amongst all the second half, I can't remember what time he went off injured. But it turns out it didn't look good. Could hardly walk, but he managed to come back on. It sounds like it's a sore toe, and I think he's been named this week. Koe played pretty well, especially on the kick returns. He has a big body. Carrigan and Haas leading from the front. For the Broncos, Seagulls did very well to sort of make this one a contest. It wasn't expected, but certainly been at Suncorp. But we're seeing sort of teams respond pretty well when they lose a key player, say the week before or whatever. Of course, losing Turbo. Kula played well, but I think he can play better and has played better at fullback. So, I think he will find his way in that position over the next couple of games. And Garrick and Olakuatu, they were pretty much the main men for the Seagulls. Great game, really low scoring, but was played with high intensity, better than some other games with more points on the weekend. But anyway, Titans versus Knights, the first game on the Saturday. Titans getting close, actually, quite competitive, 24-28, but the Knights managed to win this. I had the Knights 13 plus just because the Titans had really no halves, but not the main halves anyway. The exciting games continued. This was just another cracker, but a lot closer than I thought. And Tom Weaver, he came into the starting side for the Titans at half, and that pushed Verrills back into hooker, so Randall ended up playing 5/8, I think. Kai Pearce-Paul started on the edge in the end. He was brought in for the Knights. Tyson Frizzell dropped back to the bench. I think there's pretty good edge options there at the Knights. They're rotating them around a little bit. Knights had a brilliant start with 2 tries to David Armstrong in the first 10 minutes, but it was all the Titans for the rest of the first half, scoring 5 tries to lead 24-10 at half time. And of course, that was the Titans weren't able to add to their score in the second half. But yeah, they just went on an absolute blitz. Long range tries are great, of course. It's just so good watching fullbacks get into some space, and we saw that quite a bit this weekend. Even in this game, David Armstrong did it a couple of times, and Keanu Kinney had a good example too. Both two teams lost a player to the sin bin in a single incident between Aaron Schopp and Jackson Hastings. Aaron Schopp is actually leaving the Titans this week. I don't suppose it's because of the poor discipline, but anyway, I believe he's going to the Seagulls. But the biggest cheer of the game was when Jackson Hastings went off because of that sin bin. Yeah, a lot of people like to hate the guy. That was in the 30th minute. Second half was all the Knights with regards to the scoreboard, scoring 3 converted tries to be enough to win 24-28. However, I must admit, the Titans were disallowed a controversial try to Brian Kelly in the 76th minute. The ball was being hell of a play, actually. It was the best try that wasn't of the year so far. There was a lot of offloads, and then Titans managed to put a good grubber kick through into the corner, and Marzu managed to it was on its way out and everyone was watching it. Certainly the Titans players were the Knights players were watching it go over, wanting to go over the sideline. Marzu just hoping, but anyway, Jojo Fafita came out of nowhere, managed to get a hand to it and popped it back inside where Brian Kelly was waiting, and he managed to get the ball over the line and the tackle. It was awarded a try on field, but really did the ball come away from Kelly's? Yeah, it came away from his arm, but did it come away from his hand? Yeah, I don't know. Contentious. To me, it deserved a try just because of how good it was. But anyway, David Armstrong ended with 3 tries in the game, and one of the Knights' tries was a penalty try when Jacob Saifidi was held back or tackled without the ball close after the ball was grubbed into the end goal. He was going to be the first man there. Incredibly close contest with the Titans playing really well considering the injuries. They played well better than people expected, but maybe their lack of playmakers was the difference in the end. Without any points in the second half, yeah, that said probably a lot. Knights were spoilt with they're just absolutely spoiled, aren't they? With David Armstrong, 3 tries to go with 264 run meters, 11 tackle busts, and Glenn Marzhew obviously chimed in with some good run meters as he does. He had 251 run meters with 8 tackle breaks. Tackle busts. Dylan Lucas played a busy 80 minutes, played a full game. He's been playing well this year. Titans continue to perform better than their win-loss record suggests. Yeah, that's all you can say. Those poor Titans, really. Sharks versus Roosters, sort of the tip game of the round. I don't think it was the game of the round, but it was a good game. I had Sharks 1-12, and that was how it ended up. But very high scoring game, 38-30. And yeah, certainly didn't disappoint in this one. No changes to the Sharks teamless Tuesday lineup. Hines was fit to play, which was the big news there. Everyone was sort of waiting to see whether he's going to actually play. The only change for the Roosters at the last minute was Connor Watson starting for Brandon Smith. Brandon Smith was returning from a 1 week injury, and so Brandon Smith started from the bench. Back and forth all game. And the Sharks kicked the scoring off with a try in the first set of the game. So absolutely, teams don't try this sort of thing, but Hines thought they'd try and run it, and they on the last. So they received the kickoff, ran it on the last, few passes later, and a kick, and managed to score to kick things off. Certainly, just on that, watch the highlights if you haven't seen them already. I've watched them a couple of times. It's worth watching multiple times. Roosters bounced straight back with a try to Dominic Young. Sam Walker converts from out wide, and then followed up not long after with the penalty. Another 2 points. Joseph Suaalii goes to the bin after a quick dummy run down the blind by Mulatalo. I thought at the time it was absolutely dumb play, but ended up working in the Sharks' favour, and it was pretty heads-up play by Mulatalo. Sharks taking advantage of the extra man. They scored a great try through Katoa in the corner. Hines converted from the sideline. Goal kicking in this game stood out. A try each before Palga scored 2 tries in the last 5 minutes of the half for the Roosters, and Roosters ended up leading 18-24. So most of the points pretty much been scored in the first half. But yeah, Roosters were leading at halftime. Sharks had the better of the second half, scoring 2 tries and a penalty. Talakai scored a powerful try with about the intention of 3 or 4 men, 3 or 4 tacklers. Like seeing him in the middle, coming off the bench, adds a lot of impact. And with Finucane out and a couple of other mid forwards out for the Sharks, I think he's doing a really good job there. And of course, KL Ero is just absolutely awesome in centres. Sharks led 32-24 after that try to Katoa with a little over 10 to go. Roosters weren't done, of course. Like I said, back and forth. They got within 2 points with a try to Dom Young in the corner, his second. Sam Walker converting from the sideline. Seriously, goal kicking was good. Left a lot of the other games. Just this one stood out in terms of goal kicking and can make the difference in some of these tight games. But the Sharks managed to seal the win with a try scoring prop Tom Hazelton, 38-30. The Shark teams is seriously impressive. Hines is, if not the best player in the comp. Of course, there's a few injuries, but he would be the key man at the moment. They are the best team in the comp at present. The Roosters' attack is still scary, though. I mean, scoring 30 points against the best defensive team says a lot. Let's keep moving. Rabbitohs versus Cowboys. Cowboys winning this one 22-28. Had Cowboys 1-12. This didn't get many. I think I only got about 3 or 4 tips in terms of tips and margin this week. Both teams were 1-17, except the Cowboys brought in ex-Rabbitoh Braden Burns onto the wing for Cole Felt, who pulled out with an ankle injury. Yeah, quite an even first half contest. Cowboys scored the first 2 tries. Murray Taulagi can do some amazing things, certainly setting up a great try at one point. But yeah, the Cowboys will be glad to have him back, of course. And the Rabbitohs scored 2 in response. Latrell Mitchell scoring 1 and setting up the other for Alex Johnston. Alex Johnston, the Rabbitohs will be so glad he's back. He just adds so much more to that left edge. Just another option. I don't know. He just knows how to be right where he needs to be, but does work well with Cody Walker and Latrell Mitchell. He's just having him out there is always worth 2 or 3 tries to the left edge. Braden Burns scored in the corner I think it was right on half time, 12-16. The Cowboys were in front right at half time, but closer than people would have thought. Braden Burns scored his second try not long into the second half against his old club, and then a 20-minute gap before the next score, actually, Cody Walker scored his first try of the season to keep the Rabbitohs in the game. Mitchell made 2 errors in the 70th minute, just bang bang, getting driven into the in goal, then try and offload. Luckily, nothing more came from that. Behind his own goal line, and then butchered the line dropout from that play, gifting the ball to the Cowboys on the 10-metre line. Tom Dearden managed to score on the edge and copped the high shot in the process of scoring that try. Sinbin went to the young Rabbitohs half, and Valentine Holmes missed the conversion, but then kicked the penalty, so it was a potential 8-point try. But it ended up being 6 points. So the score was then 18-28. Really sort of the end of it for the Roosters. Damien Cook managed to score with a man down. Mitchell missed the kickable penalty, but there was so it's still only 6 points in it. So it could have got the Rabbitohs did have a chance to level it. Tom Dearden holds a tackle way too long, goes to the bin from that, just an absolute trying to slow it down too much, and made for a hectic finish to the game. Rabbitohs actually having a really good chance to score, helter-skelter, and the Cowboys managed to knock it dead to finish the game and hang on to the win. But if all of that wasn't good enough, it certainly got better. The Warriors against the Panthers. No one absolutely saw this coming. This was an upset of absolute epic proportions, and just before we get into it, because I am going to take a little bit longer with this one, this has got to be one of the top 10 Warriors performances of all time. I had the Panthers 13 plus and just could not get my head around any other way that it could be any other way than that result. Warriors won this game 22-20, if you didn't know. And I've never been happier to get a tip wrong. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak's 200th game, so they had a little bit extra to play for there. The Warriors lost Tohu Harris before kickoff. Couldn't get any worse. They lose their captain as well. Paul Roach and Dylan Walker then... So Paul Roach came onto the bench and Dylan Walker started at lock. Lindsay Smith and Moses Leota for the Panthers swapped with Sorensen and Peachy. Peachy going onto the bench. Taylon May was also out, so Alamati came in for him. Horrible start for the Warriors. I mean, the mistake from the kickoff, it doesn't get worse start than that, but they kicked it dead or full. So giving the Roosters... Panthers a penalty on halfway, a few tackles later, and Edwards scores within the first 2 minutes. Doesn't get worse than that. And you just felt like it was like the Roosters the week before. Anyway, so the Warriors, started like that, the Roosters game. Thankfully, it didn't get worse from there, though, and the Warriors kept Panthers scoreless until the Warriors score, and the Warriors managed to get some points. Marcelo Montoya scoring in the corner off a loop pass and try assist from Chance Nickel-Clockstead in the 22nd minute. Great pass, bit of ball playing from Chance Nickel-Clockstead. Marcelo Montoya was definitely missed against the Roosters, because that's where Dom Young was just running riot. But anyway, unfortunately, Wade Egan went off a little earlier and was in the 12th minute due to an HIA, which he does have a problem with. Well, he's had a bunch of HIA, so it meant that Paul Roach, with only roughly about 20 minutes NRL experience in total, had to play 68 minutes against, well, only the best team in the comp for the last 4 years. Not a big deal. The Warriors did well to contain the Panthers to 4 points until Luai made a break and set himself up a try in the 31st minute. So he made a break. A few passes later, he managed to score. No score change at half time. That was 4-10. So pretty low scoring half. I think the Warriors should be proud of that. And as I said last week, they just needed to show some resolve. Doesn't matter who's on the field. Let's try and, defend well and fight for each other, and I've really felt they did that. Shortly after halftime, so it was about 3 minutes into the second half, the most pivotal moment of the match really is it comes down to the wire, but this was a key moment. Yayo making contact with Chancellor Clock set off a quick tap. So Yayo was in an offside position. I think it happened in a previous game, as I mentioned before. And then, so he goes to the bin. Warriors score off that next set with a try to Ali Loatua, and only his second match. It's worth pointing out these things. There was a hell of an inexperienced lineup here. Tuapiki converting, that was towards the sideline, so another good kick for goal kick. Now Tuapiki was now kicking goals at that point. Adam Pompey missed a kick conversion in the first half, so they swapped. I don't know why the decision was made, but it was probably the right one. Scores were level at 10-all at that point, so the Warriors taking advantage of the sin binning. And anyway, centre on the other side for the Warriors then managed to go straight through the line and straight through a gap off another T. Martin try, or short ball, sorry. Martin set up the previous try. The Warriors now in the lead. Yao comes back and scores a few minutes later, so I think the Warriors scored 2 tries with Yao off. And then Yao comes back on and scores pretty much immediately, totally redeeming himself. But seriously thought that would be it. That would just start the Panthers' run and they'd just finish the game off. But anyway, the Warriors fought, hustled and worked hard, but they couldn't manage to keep Tango out, so the Panthers took the lead with about 12 to 13 to go. Edwards misses the conversion, but the Warriors bounce back from that. Tane Taupiki scoring on the edge. Best first try of his career, one he'll never forget. I mean, beating the Panthers team in this situation, he'll never forget that try. That's for sure. And it was a key try, wasn't it? Scores were then level, so it came down to the conversion, and this kid Taupiki nails the conversion out wide, scraping the right hand upright before going through. Unreal, absolutely ridiculously unreal. You just can't. It's hard to say anything about it. It was just unbelievable. I'm jumping up and down, yelling. Anyway, 7 or 8 minutes still to go after that. The Panthers and we're in the Warriors half. Jack Cole gets hammered by an Adam Pompey tackle, ends up vomiting from that, young Jack Cole, but the ball went backwards because he dropped the ball, but it went backwards, and then the Panthers collected it, but a couple of Warriors chased through, made the tackle, and just I guess they thought that the ball wasn't going to be a knock-on or turnover, but stripped the ball for whatever stupid reason. That was a bit silly, really, and they were doing their best to really lose that game. You just forget how to win sometimes. But anyway, Edwards misses the penalty, because it was a penalty for a strip, after the tackle from almost about 40 metres out. So Edwards missed 3 goals, and Cleary wouldn't have missed those. As I said, goal kicking is quite important. But anyway, the Warriors just running through a little list of things that the Warriors were up against. They had 9 frontline players out. They lost their captain 24 hours before kickoff. Egan went off injured in about the first 10 to 12 minutes. 4 young kids with only maybe about 10 to 15 games between them. Taupiki, Laban, Leatua, Paul Roach, and then the Warriors have lost their last 4 games, and then of course playing against the best team over the last 4 years. I mean, seriously, would have to be, as I said earlier, one of the best wins for the Warriors history. Now, just hoping this is, going forward, a key moment for the Warriors, or the Wars. We could probably call them the Wars after that. Like I said last week, it doesn't matter who's out there, but they just need to show some resolve and get some of their defensive, confidence back. They haven't defended anywhere near as well as last year. They need to front up and work for each other. Work on their discipline. I think the discipline was a bit better as well, and certainly get a bit of confidence. But yeah, never thought they would win. So yeah, hell of a lot more confidence now. Yeah, good timing for the Warriors. They've got a bye coming up, and we're heading into the Origin period, which is normally a good opportunity for the Warriors, but also they should get a few players back as well. So, unbelievable stuff. Anyway, let's keep going. Then on the game after that on Sunday was Storm versus Eels. Score was 48-16 to the Storm. I had Storm 13 plus. Late change for the Storm with Kamikamitha starting and Trent Leoro going to the bench. Joe Afangawe for the Tigers and Junior Paulo swapped for the Eels, not the Tigers. Joe Afangawe had played for the Tigers just previously. But anyway, there was also a forced change with Ryan Madison out, so that meant Bryce Cartwright could start. He's been coming back. He's come back from injury for the last week or two. So he gets an opportunity to start, but at the expense of Madison, who was injured. This one always felt like it was going to be a pretty one-sided, not like the other game where there was a bit of a surprise. But it was pretty even after 20 minutes, to be fair. It was 4-4 with tries to Kamikamitha and for the Storm and Simonson for the Eels. Warbrick and Grant scored a try each after that, both long range, within a few minutes of each other. But the Eels hung in there, and young kid Blaze Talangi went over towards the end of the half there. So score at halftime was 16-10. The Eels were still well in the game. Cam Munster, just before halftime, went off injured, rolling around and carrying on, all sorts of things going on. He is officially out for 2 months. So he's the big injury for this weekend, which seems to be one a week at least, and he will miss all of State of Origin. So that opens things up for the Queensland side. The second half was absolutely all the Storm. They lost Munster, of course, but that just hardly had an impact. If not, it helped. But anyway, Meaney kicked a penalty straight after half time. It was a few minutes into the second half. But from the 50th minute after that, the Storm scored 5 tries. It was about 30 points. I don't think that Meaney missed the conversion in about 25 minutes. Absolutely devastating. Harry Grant ended up with a double. Remy Smith also scoring 2. The Eels finally scored some points with a consolation try to Micah Sevo right at the end of the game. Brad Arthur's last game, as it turns out, he's just been announced. They've just dropped him as coach for the Eels after quite a long time. So that's quite big news. And yeah, look, I don't know where the Eels to go from here. They'll get a few guys back with Moses and Gutherson, but their season is... it's struggling. Storm without Munster for 2 months, as I said. But Jerome Hughes is back next week, and Pumpenhausen is not too far away as well. Last game of the round, West Tigers versus the Dolphins. 12-24, Dolphins winning this one. I had them 13 plus, so 1 point away. Only one change before kickoff with Asu Kapoa starting for Alex Seyfarth for the Tigers, and the Dolphins swapped Mark Nichols with Connolly Lemuelu. Farnworth didn't have a great game in terms of his passing. He passed it out to touch a few times, but he did manage the final pass for the first try to Jack Bostock for the Dolphins to kick things off. Mark Nichols scored the next try not long after he came off the bench. Justin Olam scored the first points for the Tigers not until just before halftime, actually, off a nice offload from Solomon Alamalo, from Rugby Union. and I must admit, there was 3 in the tackle, and Solomon Alamalo managed to get the ball away. So yeah, he's doing some good things. Alamalo also defended pretty well on the wing. He was up against Jermaine Asako and managed to contain him quite nicely. Score was 6-12 at half-time. Brent Naden, wow, absolute muppet. Just before half-time, jumps on Jack Bostock, who had dived on the ball and was lying on the ground. And as in the process of jumping on him, Naden hit him high. So absolute cheap shot. Coruscant, you could see him just shaking his head. Oh no, what are you doing? What are you thinking? He couldn't argue with the referee. It was just stupid. Olam, so that's half time, and then Olam gets himself sent to the bin early in the second half with a hip drop tackle, but Tigers down to 11 men at that point. Not for too long, but Tabuai Fido makes the most of a turnover and runs way to score another long range fullback try, like I was talking about earlier. Tigers somehow managed to score through an offload from Sullivan to Coruscant. Sullivan might not have got that offload away just quietly if the third man didn't come in. If you watch it, third man comes in and just sort of frees the ball up to pop out to Coruscant, who just fights all the way. You just feel sorry for the bloke. Fido scored his second try to put it out of reach with about 10 to go. The scores stayed at that point, at that place for 12-24. Poor discipline from the Tigers. Olam and Naden are now suspended. I don't know for how long, but Hamiso Tabuai Fido doing okay in his return, scoring 2 tries, 2 line breaks, 234 run meters. The Dolphins just are stacked at the moment, really, aren't they? But yeah, and they're playing really well, deserve to be in the top 4 without question. You feel sorry for Coruscant, moments of madness letting him down and the rest of the team. So that's that. Round 11. So let's keep things going. Let's move on to round 12. First game up, we've got the Bulldogs versus the Dragons on Thursday night. Let's go through the teams in terms of changes. We have Jamin Salmon rejoining the lineup on the edge. He had an infection and was hospitalised by all accounts. So Josh Curran goes back to the bench. Otherwise, that's it. And then just one change to the 17 for the Dragons. They obviously had a bye for Magic Round. Luciano Leilua is returning from injury on the bench. Ben Murdoch-Masila drops out. So not too many changes there. I don't know who the favourites are. That'll be a pretty close one, I'd imagine. Home game for the Bulldogs, technically, who are in 11th place, Dragons in 9th. I would be leaning Bulldogs. I think this is going to be a close one. I didn't get the Bulldogs last week. But I'd like to think that they can, fine-tune a few things there and win this one. Although I don't know, that could go either way. Toss of a coin, that one. Absolutely, toss of a coin. I'll go for Bulldogs just because the Dragons are coming off a bye. The first game on Friday night, second game of the round, we've got Cowboys versus Tigers. Cowboys at 12th. I think they're a better team than that, and West Tigers at 15th. That's probably where they should be. In terms of changes, same 17 for Cowboys, which means Braden Burns stays on the wing there. And then, of course, the Tigers have lost both centres to suspension, so they've got a pretty rookie group there. Declan Casey and Josh Folletti joining the back line there. So, but Isaiah Papali'i is back from suspension, so that's pretty good. And then Justin Matamua is getting a shot at lock with Alex Trail dropping back to the bench. So what have we got there? Cowboys are pretty strong favourites there, so you'd have to go that way. I've got Cowboys 13 plus. I just think they'll get a bit of confidence out of last week. They weren't bloody as crisp as they would like. Dearden's got a lot to play for now that Munster's out of Origin. And it's a home game to the Cowboys, so you'd have to lean that way. I'm going 13 plus. I think this is an opportunity for the Cowboys really to lay on some points, especially with the Tigers' back line being a little bit light in the centre's position in particular. Then on the second game on Friday night, we've got the Seagulls versus the Storm. Seagulls ranked 10th on the ladder at the moment. Storm second. They've gone up a place because the Panthers lost. How good is that? And then in terms of the teams, Jason Saab's back slightly earlier than expected for the Seagulls, so that's a good result. Nathan Brown is back as well on the bench. I think Matt Lodge is out because of a biceps injury, so that sort of evens that out. And we haven't seen Lachlan Croker for a while, but since his concussion, so Carl Lawton will keep his spot there. Jerome Hughes has been named to return. He'll replace Cameron Munster now, so Tyrone Wishart will keep his spot at 5'8". But yeah, I guess we have to wait and see about Jerome Hughes anyway, but at the moment he's been named, so that's all we've got to go by. Grant Anderson's been included on the bench. Trent Lerero is on the bench as well, so they've got Josh King starting at lock and Kamikamitha starting at prop, which is actually how they did start the last game. We've got the Seagulls are not the favourites, but the Seagulls are at home. I'm leaning towards the Storm here. I think they'll have too much firepower in the forward pack, but I think it's going to be exceptionally close. Again, I kind of feel like it's a toss of a coin. Seagulls are a bit up and down this year. They're at home, but I still think that the Storm, they're one of the teams to beat, so I'll go Storm 1-12. Next we have, on the first game on Saturday, Raiders ranked 6th, Roosters 7th, so a really good matchup this one, to be fair. It's in Canberra, so I think that helps the Raiders. Don't think there's too many changes there other than Peter Holler. He comes onto the bench because Josh Papali'i is suspended. That's the only change there. And then Joey Manu returns for the Roosters just after his concussion protocol. So Junior Pogo goes to the bench. Otherwise, that's about it. Luke Keary, he got HIA last round, so we'll wait and see there, but he seems to be okay. And Nat Butcher actually drops back to the reserves. I don't know what the story is there, but Victor Radley will start on the edge, and Naufahu White comes in at lock. Connor Watson's out. Interesting. So Sandon Smith comes in. Connor Watson, for me, has actually been one of the biggest reasons why, or he's certainly contributed to why the Roosters' attack has been so good. I don't think he's that pivotal. That they've certainly he helped as part of that kickoff over the last 5 weeks. But anyway, Raiders are way outsiders in terms of odds, which is probably understandable. The Roosters are, although ranked 7th, are probably a top 4 side there. I am leaning the Roosters to win. I think they've got too much class, but I actually think it'll be a close game. The Raiders, unlikely to let them get away with too much, let things get out of control. I'll go Roosters 1-12 for that one. Then we have Sharks versus Panthers, another top of the table clash, especially a hell of a good one, this one. The Sharks coming off a win against the Roosters, coming into back-to-back massive epic games. Panthers coming off a loss. I think this will be a big one. Sharks ranked first, PointsBet Stadium in Sydney. And then Panthers third. But yeah, they're sort of 2 top 4 teams. Forget about the rankings to a point. Anyway, in terms of changes, same 17 for the Sharks, so that's an awesome result for them. And Scott Sorensen comes into the starting side for the Panthers. And Liam Henry's back from concussion and joins the bench. So Luke Garner actually drops out. Luke Garner's been playing well. I think they've got quite a lot of good depth in the Panthers side. So where do we go with this one? Sharks technically at home there, they're favourites to win. I don't know, it's hard to write the Panthers off, of course. I think it's going to be a hell of a close one. To be fair, a bit of a toss of a coin. I'm going to go Sharks just because I don't want to tip against them at the moment. Although I'm expecting a massive response from the Panthers after last week. But this, we keep saying, well, this will be the first big real test for the Sharks. Well, they've been through the Storm, they've been through the Roosters. I'm going to stick with the Sharks until I get one wrong. But good on them. I think they're up to 7 in a row or something. Yeah, 7 in a row. Anyway, make it 8. Then we've got the Rabbitohs versus the Eels for the last game on Saturday. Rabbitohs currently ranked last and 17th place. Eels 14th, not far in front. Changes to teams. Jack Whiten has moved to 5'8". About time. I think I mentioned last week that they've got to do that. So that's happened. Cody Walker moves to halfback. Tane Moon and Michael Cheekham are the new centres because, of course, Jack Whiten leaves one spot open. Isaac Thompson has been relegated to the reserves. And Jacob Host returns for suspension in the back row. So Silvus Havili moves to the bench. Eels, no... Trent Robinson hasn't changed anything there. I think Ryan Madison returned from illness. He's the only change. But that pushes Bryce Cartwright back to the bench. Moses, no sign of Mitchell Moses. I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is one where Trent, what a lot of interim coaches come in and do, they will name the same side, but before kickoff there's been a lot of changes, so I'm expecting a few changes. I don't know what that'll look like, but I'd like to see Blaze Talangi keep his fullback spot, but you never know. Where are we going with this one? Another pretty close game. I really feel like this week there's quite a few close lineups. Rabbitohs Eels, the odds that I have in front of me can't split them at the moment. I just feel like, I don't know what the stats are for teams, getting a coach sacked and then win-loss record. I know it's worse than losses is certainly more than wins. So I'm kind of, you have to pick. It's hard to pick things here. I felt like it's a pretty even lineup. I like Jack Whiten in at half. I feel like that might offer just a little bit more. Rabbitohs looked good for moments last week. Damien Cook's playing a bit better. I'm leaning towards the Rabbitohs just at the moment, but this, again, toss of a coin sort of scenario. How good is this week shaping up, I must admit. Even the lesser teams are offering good games. I mean, it might be boring, you never know, but it's going to be close. So I'll go Rabbitohs 1-12, and then we've got the Broncos versus Titans, a battle of sort of, that lower Queensland there. You've Broncos are ranked 5th, Titans ranked 16th. Yeah, I think this has got to be all Broncos. But let's have a quick look. Reece Walsh is back, so that's big. Staggs is out, so they've got Josiah Karapani. I think he did play on the weekend, but I might have that wrong. And Billy Walters is back at hooker, so that's but that's a big deal for them too, I must admit. Selwyn Cobbo, he'll pop back into the centres, and that's about it. Payne Haas has been named to play, as I said earlier. Tom Weaver's been for the Titans. Tom Weaver's been named to start at halfback. So just like they did run out on the weekend, Chris Randall has gained the 5/8. Kieran Foran is in the reserve, so we'll wait and see there. But yeah, Aaron Shoop has gone to Manly, so Jojo Fafita actually goes to centre, and he's been one of the better Titans, I think. I don't know. Jojo Fafita's done some good stuff this year, in the last few games in particular. Tony Francis comes onto the wing. Jamin Jolliffe sidelined by a pec injury, so that's devastating. Certainly for fantasy owners, the amount of injuries is just crazy. So Josiah Pahulu will start in the front row, and Joe Stimpson joins the bench. Yeah, no sign of Jaden Campbell. Look, Broncos strong favourites here, but I don't know. The Titans have been surprising me on every week for the last few, and because they're neighbour rivals, I'm going to say Broncos, of course, but I'm thinking it might be a little close. Of course, no Adam Reynolds. I'm going Broncos 1-12. We will see. I feel like David Fafita could be one-man wrecking ball and keep the Titans in the contest on his own. He's playing against his old club. Last game of the round, we have the Waz up against the Dolphins. Where is that? That is at Mount Smart Stadium in Auckland. So Warriors currently ranked 13th. I think that's probably fair. They've really battled the last month and a bit. Dolphins ranked 4th. They are a top 4 side, but I feel like this will be a close one. Certainly the New Zealand bookmakers are only not splitting them at the moment. It's each way. They're basically evens. What have we got? Pretty much the same lineup for the Warriors. Although none of a few guys back. Garocko Berry comes back into the centres. and Marata Niokore comes back onto the bench. Freddie Lussick also is back because it's a good thing because Wade Egan will miss the game under concussion protocol. So I think Lussick will start. Paul Roach hasn't quite been on the bench. He's not on the bench at the moment, and we saw last week how important it was to have a hooker on the bench. So we'll see there. They might change that up before kickoff. Chanel Harris Tavita's getting closer to a return, but that just also means Charles Noka-Klokstad will keep his spot at 5/8, which worked really well on the weekend. And how good's Mitch Barnett been? Absolutely awesome performances. He's on the edge. He's so versatile. He's playing massive minutes. He would not look out of place in Origin, I assure you of that. And then for the Dolphins, Max Plath comes back from concussion. Kenny Bromwich will drop back to the bench. So look, I think that's kind of cool, but it doesn't. You don't feel like, everything changes for the Dolphins. I feel like they're pretty steady there in terms of their lineup. Look, for me, Warriors at home after that win, it's going to be a hell of a good test for them. The Dolphins are a genuine top 4 side, and you can tell that they are very well coached. They've got an extra few players on deck over the last couple of weeks. The Warriors are a little bit stronger in terms of lineup from last week, although losing Wade Egan hurts you. But Warriors at home, you have to split them somehow, and I'm going to go that way. So, look, I'll go Warriors 1-12. Let's see how we go. Heck of a close week this week. Most games been a toss of a coin, so that could offer up some exciting games. I would imagine it would also it's going to also wreak havoc on tipping because there'll be quite a few unpredictable results. I think upset of the round. Did I have an upset of the round? I want to try and start doing that. I don't know. This week there's not too many one-sided things. I think if I was going to pick an upset, it would be the Raiders against the Roosters. The Raiders just keep surprising, don't they? And they're at home. Anyway, if you have been listening to this, well done to you. It's been a lot of time, but thanks. Please feel free to offer any suggestions. Tell me what your tips are. Like the video, and I'll see you next week. Enjoy.